Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Selvi. Today we are going to discuss about the topic definition of ready. It's a very important and interesting topic. When we say definition of ready, is this a document? Yes, of course it's a document. It is a checklist and it is a dynamic checklist. So now we need to understand what is meant by checklist, why the word dynamic is used. First, let's try to understand with a simple example why we create checklist and what is the benefit of the checklist. Let's consider a scenario that I am planning for a trip. I am preparing my baggage. Before starting the baggage preparation, I am creating a checklist. What are the items that I need to carry in my bag? This is going to help me in a way that I am not going to miss anything when I am preparing the baggage. And the second thing is, it is also going to help me in the tracker. First thing is, it's going to bring me the list which is actually prepared by me so that I am confidently knowing what are the items that I am going to carry. And the second one is, once I am putting that in my baggage, I am going to just, okay, this is done, this is not done, okay, these are the things I need to take care. So it is also going to help me in the tracking. Okay, if I'm not preparing the checklist, what is the big harm? There is. I am actually planning to travel to a place where the temperature is going to be very low. If I don't have a checklist, I actually gathered some of the items what I thought at that moment which needs to be placed inside the baggage. I have prepared it. But I missed a very important thing that is called as the winter jacket. The moment I reached my destination and I realized, oh my god, I have missed my winter jacket. This is the benefit of checklist. If I would have prepared the checklist, I would have definitely thought about all these things. Checklist preparation is not going to happen like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It's like, okay, I am remembering 2-3 items today, I am making a list. Okay, after a few hours, I am again remembering certain things, I am coming and updating it. So it's like continuously going to be updated. It is not going to be like a fixed one. On day one, I'll write everything is frozen. No. The time I started my planning for this trip, I am actually preparing side by side these checklist items as well, so that it is also going to grow. At the same time, it is going to cover all the things. This is nothing but the dynamic checklist, right? We are not stamping, okay, this is done, and we are not going to be allowed to make any changes. When we are not allowed, or when it is actually makes no sense, after my trip has been initiated, when I'm ready with my baggage and I'm done and I'm carrying that baggage towards the airport and I'm flying, that moment if I'm updating the checklist, it is of no use. But I have all the time initially to prepare my checklist. And this checklist I can even keep it, because after 2 months I am going for another trip. So this checklist is going to help me for that trip as well. And it is also an additional advantage if I am preserving this checklist. Before the next trip, I can think of, okay, so last time I missed this item which was not in the checklist, let me add it now. Right? So this is going to be dynamically getting updated based on the improvement actions that we are finding. If we are missing something previously and we have realized, okay, it will be really good if I'm adding that, those kind of things keep on getting added in the checklist. So we know now why we are creating the checklist, what are the benefits of the checklist, and why this checklist is actually dynamic in nature. What is the purpose? Now let's come to the software process. We have 2 backlogs. Okay. What are those 2 backlogs? One is the product backlog and one is the Sprint backlog. Okay, what is the relation of sprint backlog and product backlog, Selvi, with definition of ready? We are discussing definition of ready. Why are we talking about backlog? There is a relation. What is the relation? First, let's try to understand what is product backlog, sprint backlog. Then we will come to the definition of ready and its relationship between sprint backlog and product backlog. Product backlog is the master backlog. This master backlog contains all the work items of the product. When I say all the work items, that includes user stories, defects, technical debts, and so on. Spikes. Any type of work item is actually part of this. Now, we know about product backlog. Now let's come to the topic of sprint backlog. Sprint backlog is a subset of product backlog. This sprint backlog is valid for a period of the sprint. What is sprint? Sprint is a time boxed event that can happen for 10 days or 15 days. 2-week sprint or 3-week sprint. So the sprint backlog gets created on the first day of the sprint and it gets closed on the last day of the sprint. What if all the work items within the sprint backlog is not in the closure state? What will happen? It is regardless of whatever the status the work items are in. The sprint backlog is a time boxed event. Sprint is a time boxed event, whereas the sprint backlog is only alive from the day the sprint starts till the day the sprint ends. Okay. Now, when you say product backlog and sprint backlog, Selvi, how are you going to pick the items from product backlog to sprint backlog? Is it a random pick or how it is going to happen? That question will come, right? Because when I say there is a master backlog and there is a subset backlog, how this subset is getting created? There should be some criteria. This criteria is based on priority. That is point number 1. What you need immediately, that will be always on the top of the list. So that should be your first pick. Okay, so if priority is matching, can I bring anything to the subset? No, you cannot. The reason is it should match certain criteria. Then only I can move to the sprint backlog, even though it holds high priority. Okay, now what is that criteria? That is nothing but the definition of ready checklist items. Okay, I understood all the terms. Can we make it little simple? Yes, we can make it little simple by a simple example. Let's consider a fruit basket at my home. I have a fruit basket. I got 1 kilogram of apple, 1 kilogram of orange, 1 kilogram of grapes. I put it in a fruit basket. This is nothing but a product backlog where different work items are available. My fruit basket is a product backlog where I have user story apple, technical debt orange, spike item grapes. Now I want to pick fruits for my lunch bag. The lunch bag is valid for the lunch time. That is the time boxed event, right? Lunch bag means it is time boxed for the lunch time. Snacks bag means it is time boxed for the snacks time. I will be having, if I am carrying for my lunch these fruits, then definitely I will be having at my lunch time. If I am actually taking it for my snacks, I will be having at my snacks time. So now, how I will be picking up these fruits from the fruit basket to my lunch bag or snacks bag? What is the criteria? The first criteria is if the fruit is already ripened and it is in a very good state, And as well, if I'm keeping it for another 2 to 3 days, it may spoil, so I need to consume it today. These are some of the conditions, right? So before I pick from my fruit basket to my lunch bag, I always just process these all things which are ready to eat. This ready to eat conditions are nothing but whether it is ripened, whether it is in good condition, whether it is in a consumable condition. All those things I am making it as items of conditions, right? These conditions are my checklist items, which are nothing but the definition of ready items, and ready to eat is nothing but the definition of ready checklist, which has all these conditions. So once it is matching, I am taking the apple and putting it in my lunch bag, and putting the orange in my lunch bag, few grapes in my lunch bag. So I am carrying this lunch bag. Even though I eat half apple or complete orange or not at all touching the grapes, still I will be having during the lunch time or snacks time, depends on the purpose for which I have taken. That is nothing but the sprint time or the time boxed event. So if I'm not having, I only able to have few grapes. Out of 5 I had only 2, remaining 3 are available. I will bring it back to my home and put it inside the fruit basket. Similar way, in the sprint backlog, if few items are still not worked at all and it is not closed, what will happen on the last day of the sprint? It will come back and go and stay inside the product backlog. So in nutshell, sprint backlog's validity is just to the time frame of the sprint. Similar way, how my lunch bag purpose is only meant during the lunch time. Okay. Now we got the understanding of what is product backlog, what is sprint backlog, and how we are picking the fruits. Now let's go to how we pick the work items from product backlog to sprint backlog. We need to set certain criteria for this. Even though priority is high for the work items, product owner is feeling that the priority is high. Certain things we need to consider before pulling the items from product backlog to sprint backlog. What can be the examples? First thing is, if it is a user story in the product backlog, the user story should have acceptance criteria. The relevant wireframes should be attached. The details about non-functional requirements is available, and user story is matching the 3C standards. 3C standard of user story. We will talk about user story in a separate episode. It is nothing but a guideline. As of now, you can think of it as a guideline for a perfect user story. So these are certain things. So by chance, UI UX wireframes are not available, then very well, any team member, it is not Scrum Master's responsibility, it is any team member who has all the opportunity to voice out saying that wireframes are not available, which is a D.O.R condition, which is not meeting, so we cannot commit this story, or we cannot pull this item to the sprint backlog. So what is happening here? This definition of ready checklist is helping us to determine what are the work items that can be pulled from product backlog to sprint backlog. Only when all the conditions are met in the definition of ready checklist, the items can be pulled to the sprint backlog. Okay, this definition of ready checklist we are making. When we will make this? Who will give this? Who is going to create this? All these questions are coming, right? This will be created during the initial sprint, which may be sprint 0 or the planning sprint. That is the time as a team we will be aligned as a single team and we will be preparing this. Whose responsibility is this to prepare this checklist? This checklist is prepared by the entire team, which will be facilitated by the Scrum Master. So all the checklist items team members should come up with. Okay, what are the items? Like what we have seen as example. Okay, for a story, we need to work means we need to at least have wireframes. Without wireframes, we cannot work. We should have proper acceptance criteria. It should be, the story should get estimate. If the story is without estimate, that means the complete refinement of the story is not taken care. Means there is still open questions, or there is still some clarification pending for that story, which means we cannot pick that up. So now, when all these items are met, then we can pick this up. Okay, Selvi, one question: when you say dynamic checklist, where is this dynamic getting into picture? Let's consider a scenario. We missed one of the item in the checklist, which means when prepared by the team, we brought some 10 points as checklist item, and every time we are following that. But in sprint 3, what we have realized, there is no detail about documentation information, like what should be whether a document update is required or not for this particular user story or this particular functionality, whether documentation to be updated or not. There is no scenario given by the product owner. What happened at the end? We missed as a team. We realized that it is important to be taken care in the upcoming stories. So if there is a documentation update required, in the description of the user story itself, product owner should mention, yes, documentation update is required. If it is no. If it is not applicable at all, if it is a bug or something, then he or she can very well say it is a NA, not applicable. Now, team realized this in sprint 3. Anyway, this is a dynamic checklist, right? And we are looking for some continuous improvement. As Agile always says, it is for continuous improvement. So what we will do, every retrospective meeting, Scrum Master should initiate this topic of whether any discussion related to D.O.R is required. Then team will say, yes, we want to add something called as documentation information by product owner, because that should be given. That will help us in the future work whenever there is a functionality that we are developing, whether documentation should be updated or not, that clarity we will get. Okay, very valid point. Let us update our definition of ready. So definition of ready gets updated as part of your retrospective meeting. It cannot be updated during the course of your sprint execution, which means when I am flying to a different country, there is no meaning in updating my baggage list. I can remember certain things which actually I missed, which may help in my future travel, but not for that particular travel, right? So same way, during the execution of sprint, if you feel there is a particular item that should go as part of your definition of ready, please make a note. During the retrospective, initiate the discussion and take the support from the Scrum Master to get this checklist item getting added in the definition of ready checklist. So in that way, we are continuously improving this document so that we know before committing a work item for sprint backlog, before committing a work for the sprint, we know what exactly the work items are eligible for the sprint. Now another question, when you say work item, in some places I'm saying work item, in some places I'm saying user story, how this D.O.R is going to work for different work items, right? D.O.R is going to be common for any work item. We prepare the checklist in such a way it is applicable for all the work items. If in case certain points are not applicable, that particular work item, product owner or the team should be updating in such a way, NA, not applicable. Like I mentioned, if it is a simple documentation fix for a bug, it's a defect, which is a fix in the documentation. That's all we need to do. Any wireframe or UI UX design is required? No, because it is just a documentation update. That is a defect. So here we no need to check all the checklist items. Many items may come as not applicable. So we prepare this definition of ready checklist in such a way which is targeting for all the work items that we are covering. But in cases where it is not applicable, we will just skip those items when we are checking the definition of ready checklist, which is matching or not. Okay, so now we know the checklist, what is the purpose of this checklist, why it is dynamic, and when we will be updating, who will be updating. So definition of ready is a checklist, which is a dynamic checklist which helps us to identify the work items that can be pulled from the product backlog to sprint backlog, which means those items the team can commit for the sprint. Only when all the checklist items of the definition of ready are met. It is prepared by the team during the initial phase of the project, which is nothing but sprint 0 or the planning sprint. But there is always an opportunity for us to improvise this checklist. The reason is during the course of our sprint execution, we may find some challenges. We may find some kind of missing things in the D.O.R checklist which can be added as part of the retrospective meeting. This will be prepared by the team, updated by the team. As a whole team, we will be doing this, and Scrum Master is the facilitator. I think we have covered all the details about definition of ready with good examples. Hope this definitely will help everyone. Thanks everyone for listening, and stay tuned.